I love that. Okay, so I'm going to ask over in chat, throw in either the place that you really want to go or your favorite destination that you've ever been to. And while you're doing that, I'm going to kick us off and say, Heather, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce myself. I know everybody. Hi, friends. But if I don't know you, if I haven't yet had the opportunity to meet you in person or virtually, I'm Heather Satterley. I'm the Director of Education and Media at Woodard. And I am a CPA. And I've been in the accounting space for a really, really long time. And I love technology and I love making things easier. And I love my accounting industry and my friends. Yeah, that's me. Oh, and I live in Rhode Island. Fun fact.
That is a very fun fact. I can't follow that one. I live somewhere where there'll always be water. That's a fun fact. There you go. So in Oklahoma, and I get to really enjoy my days. I love what I get to do, which is working with small businesses in the firm, and then also able to really dive in deep with different apps. So that's the place that I love to jam, helping to advocate and helping to build training. So it's a place that I feel very fortunate and lucky to participate in. And Susan, I want to join you whenever you go to Australia. Take me with you. Matt, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us your favorite place as well?
Oh, I put the Greek islands. That was my favorite place to visit, and I would 100% go back. But South America would be the one I haven't gone to yet. So I've always thought that would be, I like the mix of culture and geography. My name's Matt Tait. I'm the CEO and founder of Decimal. I live in, I would say, equally as boring of a place as Oklahoma and Indiana. We're one of those flyover states right in the middle of the country. But I've grown up and had a passion for helping small businesses, I would say, as close to when I was born as possible. And that's taken on a just throwing bricks into dumpsters when I was 6 years old to I'm now a recovering attorney and tech executive. And now I run an accounting company that helps small businesses. And along the way, I have developed a huge passion for this industry and really trying to do what I can to help small firms or firm owners make it easier and better for them and their clients.
I want to pick apart some of the things that you said quickly. And so background lawyer, converted over into the tech space. So, and then left there and came over into the accounting space. So one of the things that I find very unique about you is this background of different industries. So when you blend that, that really carries over well into the accounting space. I think of us as being, we have a great need for organization. We have a lot of communication that has to be dissected. And so that speaks to that legal background. And then you're talking about apps. So we are in a place where we really look for apps. We need apps. And one of the things that I found fascinating about your tech stack is that you're bringing in this lens of working from different industries and fields. And that's how you've chosen a lot of the tech that you're using, not so much the conferences and what's out there that's being brought to people, but really you had a need. You went out and looked at what the different solutions are. So some of the solutions that you have picked are going to be solutions that some of the people here haven't been able to hear about before or learn about. So I'm very excited.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I've had one controlling mantra ever since I would say getting out of law school and college. And that is, if you do the right thing for a client, all else follows. And whether that is giving them an amazing experience that aligns with what works well for you, then you have good economics and you have a really happy client. If you pick the right tools for the right reasons for the right client, the exact same thing. It aligns expectations on both sides of the equation. And I was never good at math, which is why I went to law school, but I've always found that tends to be a better deal.
Well, being able to pull in that background, I'm excited. And I want to say thank you to our sponsors. So we have designed a new slide here to say thank you to our 2024 sponsors. And the reason for this is to divide out some of the categories. Oftentimes we're asked who helps with what. And one of the apps that we're going to hear about today that Matt is using is Settle. So Settle is new to our space. It's something that is innovative, and I'm excited to have you hear more about that. And also to make sure that you see if you've got a need in one of these areas. We have done a lot of deep dives. We've done firm spotlights for each of these different solutions. We have lots of videos that are over on YouTube. If they're not these apps, or if you want to learn more about these apps, there's more resources over on YouTube. So you can search that up in the Happy Hour YouTube channel. So some firm insights. This is one of our favorite questions to ask because we want to get some background. Who are we talking to? A lot of our audience want to know, can they relate to you in firm size, team size, and those different kinds of offerings? And, I found your team size, 90, you are going to be bigger than a lot of the firms ever desire to be. But what that means is that you are also doing something very well, and that allows for scale. And that's the piece that I find unique about the way that you have designed your tech stack and even the processes. So 90 globally, does that mean there's some outsourcing involved in that team as well?
Absolutely.
Same. I took that leap and I have loved it. Client size, 500 plus. So that plus says that, hey, you're still growing and that desire.
We are. So I think for us, it's funny, as you mentioned, everybody on here and what we're different with, we're 4 years old. So it's not very long ago that I was that size. And we've been able to grow from 0 to really we're close to 600 now clients and 91, 93 people, I think, in 5 countries in 24 states. And we've done that by focusing on the correct way to operationalize this by creating a great experience. And Liz, as you mentioned, putting the right work with the right people at the right time with the right level of accountability allows us to really have a really good outcome.
I love that. I do. And whenever you're talking about the niche that you're serving, so home services, professional services, and then SaaS-based businesses. So anything that you want to add in there about those client base?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of like everybody, I've got some of every single type of business, but where we target and where we really shine are home services and construction, professional services, and SaaS-based businesses. We find that they have really good tech stacks that we can work with that allow us to create a really good process. We talk about systems all the time, which is a combination of technology, processes, and people. And when you can work a right scalable solution with the right scalable customer client experience, it really allows you to align to the correct pain points with the correct solutions. And so we do that. We're going to continue to add more and more verticals, either through organic growth or through acquisition over the years to come.
So what you said is something that Heather and I talk about all the time. Having an area that you focus, which doesn't mean that you have to exclude all different kinds of clients. You can have a niche, but still take clients from other areas, because I do think that there's something to having diversity. But when you have a niche, it does allow you to build a tech stack, and that becomes repeatable, and that becomes something that if it breaks, you understand what has broken. And then once you have fixed it, then you understand how to fix it and repeat it over and over again if you have a client base that are using similar tech stacks. So you want to talk a little bit more about how you choose your tech stacks?
I think that's a great question. I'm really lucky that we have an amazing team of technology people and people that can really evaluate the right technology with the right pain points. I'll give you a really good example. Right now, as we look at growing further in home services, we're looking at a lot of the invoicing type and job costing type solutions there. So the first thing that we do is client discovery. We talk with our clients, we reach out to other people in the space, and we really map pain points. What problems do they have? What pains do they have? And then what we try to do is map what technology can solve that pain. And then we often will test it to see what solves it well. Because I'm sure everybody on here has tried something they thought was going to work out really, really well, and it ended up being pretty bad. Or it was all promise and no execution. And so we'll often test that in our own sandbox first to make sure that it actually does live up to expectations. Then what we'll do is we will talk to actual clients or customers of that technology product to double check, does it work like we think it does? Does it work like this kind of, we call it in the wild? And by running through that and mapping it to specific pain points, we then have the system that we can use for a specific thing. The other thing that we really focus hard on is what is the core competency of a product? What I really don't like is in a lot of ERPs, we used to joke that ERP stands for mediocre at everything. But what is the core competency of a product? Is it paying the bills? Is it invoicing? Is it payroll? Is it international payroll? And making sure that that core competency is what we want it to be, and then build a process around that.
So one of the things that you said makes me want to dig a little deeper. How long, when you go through this testing environment, how long do you spend there? Is there usually like a time frame? Oh, we're going to test this app and within a couple of weeks, we're going to know, or days. When do you know to pull the plug?
Oh, you usually know if you're going to pull the plug within a couple of days, if not hours. If it really doesn't meet expectations, you find out pretty quickly. We've been lucky enough to interview some of the top people in companies. So when we try a new product, we'll often ask to talk to the leadership team. And a lot of what we're asking about is, what is your roadmap? What's your vision of the future? And how big is your team? One of the things that we've always asked is, how big is your total company? And what percentage of that company is product and engineering? Because if you run into a software company where product and engineering is not 60, 70% of the team, that's a problem. Because what you want that team to do is not sell. You want that team to build and fix the solution so that you can then put it in place. And so those are some of the kind of nuanced tech questions that I would ask. Is the quality and size of an engineering team is very important.
Heather, I like Matt's way of thinking. What do you think?
Oh, I do. No, definitely. I think that's something that we focus on, the functionality and what we see on the website and what we see in the demo. And a lot of times we're not digging in to asking those more technical questions about the company itself. And, that's definitely something that we need to be aware of. Looking at how long has a company been around is a big one. I've known people that have gotten burnt by implementing new technology that solved a problem in their company only to have it disappear, be acquired, and then, phased out, leaving a gap. So it was a temporary fix, and that can be very disruptive to a firm. So asking those hard questions of the company itself is definitely a best practice. I love, love, love that.
I even like the
it's funny because when you started talking that way about talking to leadership, at first I thought you were talking about that you were talking to leadership of a company that has used the product. And I was thinking, wow, I don't do that. I usually talk to the people that are actually using the product and not the leadership, because they usually don't know how to use it. So they can't really tell you much about user experience or troubleshooting. And then I got on board to, he's actually talking about interviewing leadership of the actual tech company. And that's fantastic. Now, I do have a question for you on that, Matt, because I'm just thinking to, myself and to other people, that are in the room, is how do you get those appointments with the leadership within the tech company? I mean, if you're talking about a large company, like Intuit, let's just say, although that's kind of an extreme, getting access to leadership is not an easy thing to do. And when you're a firm that's, only got less than 100 employees, how do you encourage them to take time out of their busy days to actually meet with you and discuss that with you?
I find the toughest thing to do is just ask.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Most people won't ask the question. And so what we found is it's amazing because either way, you may pick the solution if they tell you no. You will learn a lot about the company and its culture simply by the answer you get to asking, can I talk to somebody in management? Or can I talk to your manager? One thing that you said to me, I think is very interesting and I think can be very tough in this space. And by the way, I've never been on the phone with anybody from leadership at Intuit. I'd have a few things I'd love to say to them if I could. But I think I'd say that about everybody. One of the things that I find when I look at technology is I struggle with the younger technologies because a lot of times they are more hope than execution. And I struggle with the bigger and older ones because they're less flexible and more rigid. And I find that a lot of people in this space try to square peg and round hole into some big legacy technology because it's what they're used to, but it doesn't truly answer that question of what is best for my client, but it answers the question of what's best for me. And that misaligns that equation that I spoke about earlier. So I really like that middle.
Well, that's some good
I
insight.
love it. It's, you know, honestly, Matt, that's a breath of fresh air to me because I think we've been for the last several years in a it's about my firm and not the client kind of mindset within our industry. And there's definitely room for that as far, you know, especially when you're finding work-life harmonization and balance, right? But it is all about client experience and being a great practitioner. I mean, we're a service industry and it really is our job to make it easy for our clients. That's why they've hired us. So focusing on what, you know, what makes them successful and what makes them, you know, that brings value to the fact that we bring them peace of mind. That is what we're selling. We're bringing you peace of mind. We're
Right.
bringing you visibility. We're bringing you, you know, somebody that understands, you know, things you don't, right? So I love that. I love that you said that. And I think we need to get back there as an industry because that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Well, and I
client
think
experience.
don't swing the pendulum too far. Align client experience with your experience.
Mhm.
And that's the hardest thing because I think too many people swing the pendulum. I'm going to go all client experience and then I'm losing money. I'm going to go all my experience and then I'm losing clients. And that's a constantly moving target. One of the things you hear a lot about in tech that you don't hear a ton about in service and industries is what is your product market fit? In our case, what's service market fit? What is it that you're selling that people are buying? That is a constantly moving target, and you have to treat it as a constantly learning experience. And that's something that I think I wanted to point out the nuance there that I think is really important, that it's really the middle of that and not the ends of that spectrum.
Well, thank you. I love it.
Good insights. And as promised, here is the internal tech stack. And I would love for you to talk through some of these. You know, one of the front, if you would start there and kind of talk through what does that
Yeah.
do for your firm?
So one of the biggest things, I'm going to start with this premise because I think it's different than some firms. We are remote only. So all 91 of our folks rarely see each other in person. And so how we choose to manage our tech stack is reflected with that starting point. One of the metrics that we track at Decimal, and I would say it's maybe our biggest true north metric, is responsiveness. And so we want to track, are we responsive? Can we respond to every single client outreach in under 2 hours? Doing that at scale with 500-600 clients is much different than doing it with 10 to 20 to 30. So for that, we needed a system that would make it easier for us to track responsiveness and to make that a KPI measurable metric. You can track, do I close books in other systems? Am I accomplishing tasks in other systems? But truly making communication and comms a trackable statistic is, I think, one of the biggest things that sets us apart from everybody else. And Front is one of the ways that we are able to do that. It is our communication or ticketing system that we use with our clients to really help us not only be exceptionally responsive, but manage off of a dashboard of responsiveness. And being able to manage off of a dashboard, being able to use metrics that we use to be able to increase client experience, improve it as much as humanly possible, That is one of the things we use Front for. The other thing is it's an exceptional efficiency tool. There is so much inefficiency that comes from internal email communication. And think about all of the different draft. I really noticed this when I was in a law firm. We would send one document one way, then you'd send it another way, then it ended up 5 different places, and then you have to reconcile all the documents, and you have all these emails. Front allows us to communicate about an email within one system without having to email each other. Where a lot of firms or a lot of companies will use this is something like a Slack, or it's been probably 20 years since I've used Microsoft, but Teams, I think, has a chat functionality. But using that type of chat functionality to talk about an email. But the problem is you're moving into systems. And when you're moving into systems, it creates an inefficiency because you're context switching. It also creates an error rate because you're not communicating about the email in the system. And so Front allows us to maintain internal efficiencies around communicating about emails. Client sends an email that they're angry. I can either forward that to my head of operations, or I can tag her in that email and say, hey, will you look into this? Let me know what's going on, and we can chat about it. And then she can reply to that email. And so that's where we use Front, is both from a statistical reporting, because to me, responsiveness should be one of the single most important metrics for any service firm ever of any size, but it is never talked about. And so, but you also have to have the ability to operationalize and scale that going forward.
You know, one of the other apps that I want to pick on here is Lattice. And again, it talks to the team insights. So do you want to elaborate like how you're using Lattice?
Oh, I love Lattice. So Lattice gives us a ton of capabilities in team management and communication. So we run performance reviews through there. We run employee engagement surveys through there. Our employees, our team members, are giving us weekly updates on how they're feeling. Each team has a different set of, like, it's just 3 questions. It's meant to be super quick and easy. You do it at the end of a Friday. What am I doing? What problems am I having? And then we get a sentiment score. 1 to 5, am I happy? And that allows us to really start to track how people are doing. What is their mental health? Heather mentioned earlier, I don't know if it's work-life balance or synchronicity, or, you know, it's the Venn diagram that is life post-pandemic that I think is much more acceptable. Understanding and asking people, how are you doing, is one of the most underestimated questions that you can authentically ask somebody. And we do that both asynchronously and synchronously with our team. Because if I'm in an office and I walk by and you look disheveled and, you know, you haven't showered in 3 days, that tells me a lot about how you're doing. If you're a software engineer, great.
Well,
If you're
don't
an
judge
accountant,
too much
less
in
great.
that area though.
Yeah, but home life, like being able to start to manage and measure that, Lattice really helps us to do that, and to do it in a way that allows us to track it to see how it's improving or how it's decreasing.
You know, one of the things I think in a small firm, because most of our audience here is probably from a small firm point of view, not everybody, but you know, when you're in a small firm, it's really easy to feel siloed. Whenever you're in a larger firm, sometimes you create little groups. But whenever you're siloed and you're all working independently, it's easy to get disconnected, not intentionally. It's just we're all the type of personalities that are focused. We zone in on what it is that we're doing, and we lose sight of checking in on the team. And it's super important to stay connected. And yes, I agree with you that there's been some changes post-pandemic. You know, how are we all doing? And that varies day to day, I would say. But I do think that having a solution that you've put into place in order to say, are we as a company being successful with staying in touch with our team members? And are we, you know, do we have our pulse on how they are doing? Because if they're struggling individually, it also reflects on the company too. And it's difficult to be able to have an employee who maybe is going through a hard time and they're in a bereavement stage. And so somebody needs to help and pick up the pieces and help them through maybe a difficult time, where later on in the month, they're going to be fine, or year, or whatever. But, having a tool like Lattice to check base, I think it's a smart idea. So thanks for sharing that.
I think too, with a remote company in particular, you really have to be intentional about everything. And
Yep.
that's one of the things that Lattice helps us do.
Well, I really like these pieces of communication that you're sharing. And so I went ahead and I advanced the screen because one of the things that you are doing that I find pretty darn cool is with Front, how you're using it. So these are a couple of screenshots that you've shared with us. And do you want to talk through what kind of analytics that you're getting out of Front?
Yeah, so it's like I mentioned earlier, responsiveness is one of the key metrics here, but volume is really important too. So if you look up, I can see email number of emails received. I can see, and I can do that by company, by team, by individual. So it helps with capacity management, because one of the toughest things is managing if people are getting overwhelmed, which then allows me to start tracking responsiveness. By the way, this is my systems team's responsiveness timing, definitely not my operations team or delivery team responsiveness. But it gives me a chance to see, like, how long is it taking them to solve an email, to respond? How long is it taking them to reply? What is a first reply? Because sometimes you get into a communication and first reply is really important, because at the very least, people want to know that you received their email and that you're handling it. It can be, I'm going to take some time to look at this and I'll get back to you. But that responsiveness is deserved, period, full stop. So that's what it helps me with. This heat map right below it is exceptionally helpful when it comes to team management of inboxes. So we have teams that service our clients. You have an individual point of contact, but you also have other people that can hop in and answer. And so this tells me what volume looks like at specific times, which helps me understand, hey, my next hire probably needs to be on the East Coast for this team, because they're getting a lot of email volume at times where the West Coast is sleeping. So it helps me understand staffing concerns. And then just conversation flows. How many emails equal multiple coming back and forth? So these are a lot of the analytics that we really look at as we try to scale, because my job is to create the best client experience, whether you have a choice of working with the world's largest firm or the world's smallest firm or us. I want to have the world's greatest experience. And I've determined that responsiveness and email communication is one of the top ways of doing that. Now, one of the ways that really helps us from an internal efficiency standpoint is that right-hand screenshot. That shows you the email communication. We received an email, and rather than forwarding it on, you tag somebody like you're chatting with them. And then you can have a whole string of communications. You can edit emails for people. It allows us to be exceptionally efficient from a ticketing and email communication standpoint. It also allows us to collaborate. Like you mentioned, silos. Silos are even harder with remote environments. And this allows for communication about emails and about communication. And so I receive less than probably a dozen total emails from my team every year. But I look at and send probably 100 a day, but I don't ever get them internally. And this is one of the things that helps. Does that answer your question about Front?
Yeah, I think that these kinds of insights are spot on with what we're looking for. There's some tools that you can use. I mean, Google has some things that are built into it natively, so does Microsoft, but not to this degree. I would say that you're hitting on, especially whenever you're talking about your heat map. And you've got more analytics here, and then the conversation back and forth about an email at a message level back and forth with a team. One of the things that I'll even call out here is that you don't have to talk in complete sentences whenever you're doing a app conversation. Hey, did you know? Just trying to keep you in the loop. FYI. And all that is just triggering the next person to know, do I have something I have to do? So I need to have my full focus, or am I just being caught in the loop so that way I know what's happening and what the stage is? So lots of things can happen really quickly without having to put together a whole paragraph. So I find that to be very useful about Front. Heather, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I love your customer focused approach. This technology is fantastic, and absolutely necessary. Even if you have a smaller team, this is really great information. And it also, what I love about this is that it aligns so closely with the culture that you've designed for Decimal.
Mhm.
And so this is really walking the walk, right? You hear people talking the talk, but this type of technology speaks to the culture that you've created and to your, vision for Decimal. It's brilliant. So well done.
Thank
Very
you.
lovely.
I mean,
I want to also call out your external apps too, because you've got a lot happening over here. So some of these are going to be ones that people are used to, but some of the, I would say some of the lesser known apps, if you want to touch on those.
so I'll come back to Settle because we have really enjoyed using it as a tool for multiple solutions, accounts payable, working capital for our clients, and purchase orders. It's been a fantastic addition for us. But one of the things for us that has been really helpful is Synder as a kind of middleware between like Stripe, for instance, and QuickBooks, solving that problem. So many people think that Stripe integrates really well with QuickBooks, and that's just not true. It has a kind of global integration, and you can sort of get things in there. But to actually have what you need from an accounting perspective, it has a lot to be desired. And we use Stripe internally, and we use Stripe quite a bit externally. Um, but to me, Synder has been a huge help for us from that middleware perspective. And in fact, I just saw Sandy mention that Stripe plus Synder equals smiles. I totally agree with that. My team would 100% agree. Plus, one of the things that they do, and I would say them, Settle, Rippling, and Routable on this list are the best. Client service, their desire to be helpful in terms of creating an asynchronous knowledge base and synchronous help when we have problems is by far and away above the rest. And one of the things that you asked about earlier is how do we select new technology partners? One of the things we try to figure out and then how we judge down the road is how is their customer service when we have problems. We understand there will always be problems with technology. That's a guarantee. And so those have been great. The other thing that I love to point out here is I mentioned earlier square pegs and round holes. We have multiple payroll solutions that we lean into depending on the use case and the need. If somebody needs a device management, maybe has some international employees or wants a PEO type solution, we love Rippling. If they're a client that already comes to us with ADP, we have plenty of clients on ADP, and as we've made acquisitions, like we bought Spark from KPMG a year ago, we had a lot of great ADP clients that came on. Gusto was also a really good solution for us that I think is good for smaller businesses. And so those are some of the kind of square pegging and round holing that we've really figured out how to pick the right solutions. But those are kind of some of the really good ones. And then Settle and Routable for us from a bill pay solution has been awesome. And we also, it's like QuickBooks. You will use bill.com. People will come to you with bill.com. You have to use bill.com or bill. I guess it's bill now.
Right.
So, which feels so super awkward to say on a webinar.
It's just like X, Twitter, what? We were having that conversation.
Yes. There are a lot of bad rebrands in this space. But anyway, the Settle for us has been really great. We started and got to know them through e-commerce because they really have had a focus on e-commerce. But what we've learned is that from a small company bill pay perspective, my team loves them. It is super easy to work with. They're super responsive. The technology solves the problems that we need it to solve. And then that's great. Add into that. Oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I love that we're going to talk about Settle because one of the things that's new to this space is Settle. And like you've been talking about, great for e-commerce, great for inventory, but there's so much more than that. It's all about this financing piece. So I definitely wanted to dig into that. My other question here before we move over is Unleashed. What are you using Unleashed for?
Unleashed has been used a little bit for inventory.
So it's inventory solution for all of the different sales channels. You're talking about Synder, you're talking about some of these, Amazon, Shopify. And so Unleashed has been your inventory app? Or
It's been one of our, we've used Sin7 and Unleashed. We used to really like, and I'm totally blanking on the name, QuickBooks bought a inventory management software. TradeGecko. We love TradeGecko.
Same.
And then QuickBooks bought them.
Nowhere. Yeah.
We love you, Intuit. You're listening to me, so please, we love you.
We need our inventory solutions, that's for sure.
We do. And it's one of the things that I think a lot of these companies in the space like us settle. I wouldn't be shocked if down the road they all start to build towards inventory management. But right now, Unleashed and Sin7 have been inventory management solutions for us.
Nice. Well, I want to move over and talk about Settle. And I got to have a really great conversation with them today. And, one of the things that I would say, even over in chat, if there's one of these solutions that you're curious about and want to have some information, please throw that over there. But Settle has been an app that has captured my attention. Heather, you've had some experiences with Settle, so that's pretty darn cool. And getting to talk to their team today and really dive in deeper with them, I'm very intrigued by what they're doing. And I want to go ahead and advance to this next slide. So that way you can give us, Matt, some insights as to how you're using Settle. How did you come across them? Because it's not a solution that does a lot of advertising in the accounting space. So I'm glad that you're bringing them to the forefront right here.
So, and Sandy just put something in the chat that I think I'll lead into exactly with Sandy's question. We use Settle as one of our primary bill pay solutions. So we use Routable for high volume. We use Bill.com if they come to it, or if it's the right choice, but we love Settle for bill pay. So accounts payable, bill pay is Settle. That's where we start. We put Settle in as our bill pay solution, typically as a default. Now, that is not even the tip of the iceberg on what they do. And Liz, that's what we're alluding to in the lead in here, which is it does a lot more. When they added purchase orders, because we've all seen the complexity of multiple systems when you're dealing with payments, bills, purchase orders, like you just have a lot of matching that has to occur. And so to be able to create purchase orders in the same system that you're doing bill pay is a huge moment. Settle is very much really amazing for e-commerce and inventory type companies. We use it for all small businesses. So it's not that pigeonholed, and they've been amazing as a bill pay solution for that. But when you're talking about e-commerce, as an example of an inventory business, the purchase orders plus bill pay is really cool. And it's an easy system to use and to train people on, which is another thing I probably should have mentioned earlier on why we picked technology solutions. It needs to be easy to train and teach people how to use. And Settle very much fits into that. Now, the final piece that I think is really cool and has been timely these last few years is they have a working capital component. Where, I mean, we all have seen what interest rates have done, how lending has been, how capital raises for tech or e-commerce brands have been tougher and tougher, and thus far they haven't improved. Settle has a really great financing arm to it, where you can have things where it's like, I'm going to pay my bill or I'm going to finance the payment. That bottom right screenshot is a really cool example of it's like, hey, I'm going to pay it from the bank or I'm going to finance it. Having that finance component, being that type of a lender that can help directly in small businesses and have great software There are only two companies in this space, in our accounting space, that I know that have two really great solutions that also have great software to them. Ramp being the other one. It is a fantastic bank with really good bill pay software, or sorry, not bill pay. They do have bill pay, but they have expense software and a credit card that goes with that. Settle is the same thing. They have an amazing financing option with really good bill pay software along with it.
So we're being asked by Sandy, does it have an approval routing?
I believe that it does. How many levels is what I'm not sure on. Oh, Pete, there we go.
Hey, Pete.
See, this is where you alluded, you've nailed on my biggest problem in this entire conversation. I never touch anybody's books, and God forbid we're all having major problems if I am. I'm not even allowed to touch my own.
What I hear though is that you're a process analyzer, and that piece
Yes.
of the work is really important in order to put together the systems in order to be efficient and correct, and the communication has to be in place. So I do find talking with you very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So Pete's saying yes, bill approval and payment approval. So both are in place there.
I'm going to totally owe Pete a beer the next time I see him for that bailout. Thank you.
And the other thing that I will say is that, yes, the other piece of this, Sandy, is we're going to have a Settle deep dive. And that Settle deep dive will actually include a demo. So we'll go through, and what Matt's talking about right now with the finance option, I got to see today. And that was super enlightening. I think that, you know, when you're talking about any type of product-based business, you have a lot of purchases that have to happen very timely. So that's a part of why Settle is unique in this space, is it's able to be in place in order to help with the financing. You know, a lot of profitable businesses fail, and it's due to cash flow issues. This is a solution that allows you to have some cash flow. It's fast, it's easy to manage, and then you're able to move on with your systems. One of the things that I heard you say, Matt, is you're using them in the e-commerce space, but that all of your clients, if they're a good fit, you've moved them over into Settle. And you've got a lot of, you know, service-based businesses that you're also serving.
Oh yeah, we have plenty of consulting firms. We have plenty of tech companies. We even have some home services brands that we have put on, and construction services on Settle. I actually think they pigeonhole themselves more than I pigeonhole them. One of the things that you said earlier that I didn't want to let go was, how did we find them? We found them because, coming from the tech space, we follow a lot of new things that come out of the best venture funds, the best funders, et cetera. And it gets to a problem that Heather alluded to earlier too, which is businesses fail. Doesn't matter if you're tech, businesses fail, go out of business, get bought, et cetera. When people are funded by certain levels of venture funds, of which Settle is well capitalized with those types, the chance of success is higher. And so when we noticed Settle, and we, I believe, had been using Settle for almost 3.5 years, we picked them because we saw that they were getting that type of funding. We started throwing some clients on them. We did some internal testing ourselves. One of the things that's been amazing in that time is the software has grown astronomically, and they take great feedback. So it's one of the things that we've all given feedback to Intuit, and that's something. And we've given feedback as us to like a Settle, and they've taken that, they've made improvements, they've helped, not just on a client by client basis, but, oh, do you have that? Or can you add this? And they'll explain to you where it is on their roadmap, or when it's coming, or what the thought process is. And so they've been really, really good to work with from that perspective as well.
You know, I just wanted to comment on what you're saying about being customer centric on their side with Settle. Is you can look at that, you know, that image on the bottom left where you're comparing documents. You know, it's beautiful because that's exactly how we would want to see it in real life, as they say, right? So it is. They put it. A good software, in my opinion, is where your brain doesn't have to work so hard. It's intuitive,
Mhm.
and it's providing you with the data that you need right at that moment to make a decision, and you don't have to think about, what do I do next? Right? So that is beautiful. I just had to point that out because it's exactly how we would want to see it as an accountant in your day-to-day job, which is what it's supposed to be. That's what it's designed for. So love that.
Well, and one of the things that's really cool about Settle is I was just having a conversation with a fractional CFO today. We're all looking for wow moments with our clients. Let's do something that just wow.
Mhm.
When you put a client on Settle and then you start to realize their cash flow is getting low and they're struggling with a bank. Hey, don't know if it's going to work, but I really think that you should talk to Settle. They might be able to help with your financing. That's a wow. Thank you. It is beyond the expectation that they have with you in what they're paying you to do, and it's a really cool addition.
Well,
Nice.
in the repayment that takes place is at the time that the order is fulfilled, and there's payment that takes place from the customer perspective. That's whenever Settle starts to collect. So you have arrangements in place that are reasonable to be able to say, I had to purchase these goods. I haven't sold them yet. I've got them in stock. Now I've sold them. I'm receiving my payment back, and then you can repay Settle. So that's a really ingenious way to work because it also flows with the way that business systems work.
Agreed.
And I would also say that we're seeing, and we have been seeing for quite a while, alternative funding options for businesses. In this scenario, it's really fast, it's convenient, it doesn't take very long. That's the thing that a lot of business owners try to avoid, is they don't want to have to go through the whole bank loan process. And then also you're talking about much bigger dollars. In this case, you're talking about smaller dollars at a faster increment. Repayment options are a whole lot faster, less fees as far as what I have seen. So doing well in multiple different areas.
Not predatory, too.
That's a big one right there. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they caught my attention too, is that we want solutions that work, but we want to take care of our clients.
Right.
So one of the things that we've got is Pete is here. He's answering some questions. So thank you, Pete, for our chat who wanted to know a little bit more. And so I'm going to jump us ahead because we're just about done with the hour. And Heather, you and I have got a gobble google of videos over on YouTube. So anybody who wants to go and gobble google, who wants to go and see.
Is that the technical term for it, Liz?
Yes, it is now.
All right. Yes, we do. We have over 125 videos at this point on our YouTube channel that you can check out. If there's an app in the space, there's a pretty darn good chance that we have covered it on Happy Hour. So head on over there. It's actually kind of fun, Liz, because like a week or so ago, I went on our YouTube channel, was kind of taking a walk down memory lane. And it was really fun to kind of look at the journey. We're in year 7 of Happy Hour, which is kind of amazing. And we're going into season 7. So
we need to have an in-person visit to celebrate.
We definitely have to do that for sure. So
maybe we should make that in London.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Oh, and I want to do a shameless plug for the Accounting High Bracket Challenge is happening now. And we would love all of you to nominate Happy Hour as one of the contenders. So yeah.
Accounting High, go check it out.
Go check it out. Yeah.
And check out the Facebook Lounge. This is where we get to chat together, ask questions, answer questions. We even let our apps in. I know that there's a lot of other channels like this that don't. So that's one of the things that we want to always make sure that you have access to, is solutions, so that way you can ask them direct questions. And coming up, we are going to have a deep dive into Settle on March 12th. So I might even wear green that day too. And then, in that deep dive, we're going to be talking about the bill pay, the purchasing, and then also the financing option. And then on March 26th, Heather and I are going to have a very fun webinar where we're going to be talking about AI bots. Lots of them have came out there. really fun to explore all the different capabilities.
It's gonna be a time for us to play. I love our time to play. So excited. We'll have to
Me.
come up with an happy hour bot before May 26th.
Okay, I'm all in.
Let's
We'll
do
have to
it.
see what we can create, because lots of goodies there.
Definitely. Well, Matt, this has been incredible. You've been an incredible guest. It's been fascinating to learn about your tech stack and your company, and wow, how you've been able to grow it in just 4 years is really astounding. So kudos to you. I'm excited to see how, where you guys go. It's gonna be amazing.
Well, I really appreciate you both having me on. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure we're running long because I talk a lot, so I apologize, but it has been a lot of fun, and I look forward to subscribing to all those channels.
Well, thank you, and take care of those twins.
And we
Me
hope
too.
to have you on Happy Hour again for sure. So maybe we'll see you at a conference.
Anytime. Yep, went to my first ever QuickBooks conference, and I'll start going to more and more. So it was really good to meet you. Look forward to seeing y'all in person, and appreciate you guys for having me on.
All right, more to come, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.